Hey class, happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a fantastic week. Dr. Doug Brown here. Just want to jump in a moment and check in, see how everything's going. Just encourage you. We are in week 6. I know it's easy to get tired during week 6. We only have a couple weeks left of the class. Do me a favor, take a look at all your grades. Make sure I have all your assignments. If you're behind and it's an extraordinary situation, please let me know. Try to get those in as soon as you can. I'd like to see everybody finish strong. My goal is for everybody to do well, to learn the material, learn writing APA, and to finish the class strong. And you're doing a fantastic job. You've always done a fantastic job, and I am proud of you for all the work that you've done. It's been an honor working with the class. This has to be one of the strongest classes that I've had when in teaching this class for several years now. So, way to go. Keep rocking. Don't give up. Don't get tired. We're almost finished. This week in discussion 6, we're talking about the social contract and crime. So, what's a social contract? Essentially, there's an agreement, sort of an unwritten agreement, if you will, between the government and the people, where we have some protections and we should feel safe. And there's a lot of crimes that violate this social contract. And you see the theory that's presented there in the class on social contract. A lot of philosophers have posited, have shared their beliefs, their thoughts on this theory of the social contract, this agreement that the government has, and to a degree, the government has this responsibility to provide services to protect the individuals, protect the group more than the individuals, all the citizens, if you will. So a lot of crimes that are in place, some of those you're discussing this week in your post, violate the social contract. We should have some ability to stay free and safe, just like I said earlier. And so, just share your thoughts on some of those different crimes. Crime's an interesting thing. It affects us all differently. What seems like a large crime to some may be small to others, and what's an individual crime that affects maybe one person really does affect us all to some degree because we're all vulnerable to that different crime. So, it doesn't matter which crime you share. Just make sure that it does violate the social contract. We've had good discussions about everything from domestic abuse to discussions about Wall Street and how some of those brokers and bond daddies or whatever have taken advantage of people and used their position of authority to get money, to steal from people, to take everything you have, and this certainly violates the social contract. So it could be just about any crime. Someone posted, a thought about some of the other different crimes that could affect us, such as saying things about someone else, and that could be something that violates the social contract. It really affects us. It makes you look bad and to your peers, so it certainly could affect us. Make sure you get your discussions in by Thursday. If you hadn't already posted, I'd encourage you to post early, and really think about those papers, those other assignments. They're all due on Sunday. Make sure you try to get those in. Remember to support your thoughts with citations, references. Check your grammar. Make sure that you're staying on point with the assignment, and try to really include some theory. I've tried to share some examples on theory as it relates to the social contract and other things. So really try to think about that. Check those announcements where I've added those. Unfortunately, Engage doesn't really allow me to create a folder so that you can reference that information, but I did post that in the discussions as well as the announcements, so make sure you take a look at those periodically, and make sure you reply to two of your peers, if not more. If if you don't mind. And one of the discussions this week, someone discussed panhandling. That's a great example, how that violates the social contract. And there's even further discussion there because in some cases the state Supreme Court in several states have ruled that those panhandling laws are unconstitutional. People have a right to, panhandle or ask for help, which really only makes sense because there are some people out there that need some help and others don't. Think about how the definition of crime has changed over time. We see many cases where historically, for murder, for example, murder was murder, and then it changed to manslaughter and different forms of murder. So think about and consider sharing the definition of crime, how it's changed over time, which is definitely related to changes in our culture, changes in our society. As I mentioned in one of the discussions, we're one of the last countries in the world, certainly in the West, to have the death penalty. The other countries have eliminated that for murder and in other crimes, and they simply just do life sentences or long-term sentences. They don't do the death penalty anymore. There's no more capital punishment. So that's a way, just an example of how crime has changed. And again, a lot of that's related to influences of society. We tend to take a look at things differently as humankind evolves. Things are not as important as they used to be. We are more forgiving in some areas. We may believe that a person commits a crime based upon their background, how they were raised, and so we often believe that punishment should be limited based upon this, and then we should give them an opportunity to learn from their mistakes and contribute to society if at all possible. And that all relates back to the punishment because again the punishment has changed over time. And it's interesting to have this discussion about punishment. Sometimes we see more fines now than anything else. We see crimes like let's say possession of marijuana. Some states like Alaska now have essentially said, tell you what, we're no longer going to arrest people. We're just going to give them a citation. We're not going to arrest them anymore. They can pay a fine. If they don't have a medical marijuana card or we catch them growing or something to that effect because we don't have jail space and we feel like that it's not doing any good by arresting these people. So society's changed, the punishment has changed. And then we think about the ethical responsibilities of law enforcement. What are those ethical responsibilities to victims of crime? Has that changed over time? It seems that, in the past, as we have had in discussions, when there was domestic abuse or some other thing that happened and they were victims of crime, there wasn't as much support. Now we have a lot of support. We have Laura's card. We have those requirements for law enforcement officers to really work with those different crime victims and those that have committed crimes for that matter. And really try to support them. So those are things all to consider in the discussion this week. Keep up the great work. I look forward to reading your discussions. If you have any questions, you need my help, I want you to reach out to me via email, call me, text me. We can visit via Skype. I'll do everything I can to help you with the material, with your writing, with APA, any questions that you may have. You're doing a fine job. I'm proud of everything that you're doing, and I couldn't be more proud because you really are doing a good job this week. It's been an honor working with y'all guys and gals throughout the term. Again, if you're behind, if you have assignments where you have zeros, if you earned a score that's less than 100%, please consider revising and resubmitting your work. I'll take another look at it. Use some feedback that I gave you and to revise it and resubmit, and we'll regroup and I'll change your grade accordingly. If you need help, let me know. Have a great rest of the week. I'll check back in this weekend and I'll see you in the discussions.